How many times can a person survive being murdered in a single night? Once, maybe twice if they're incredibly lucky? Well, what if I told you there was a man who was fed enough cyanide to kill an elephant, shot point blank in the chest, beaten half to death, and still managed to stand up and smile? Now, this isn't a superhero movie. This actually happened in the freezing winter of 1916. His name was Grigori Rasputin, history's most terrifying mad monk. But how did a penniless, unwashed peasant from Siberia manage to hypnotize a royal empire, survive the impossible, and leave behind a secret so dark it still puzzles historians today? Let's travel back to the final bloody days of Imperial Russia, because the truth about Rasputin is far more insane than the legend. To understand why people wanted Rasputin dead, you first need to understand how he became the most powerful man in Russia. In the early 1900s, the Russian royal family had a massive secret. The young prince and heir to the throne, Alexei, suffered from hemophilia, a rare disease where even a small bruise could cause him to bleed to death. The doctors were useless. The king and queen were desperate. Enter Rasputin. He was a wanderer, a self-proclaimed holy man who smelled like a stable and rarely washed. But the moment he walked into the palace and whispered to the bleeding prince, the bleeding stopped. Was it magic? Hypnosis? No one knows. But Queen Alexandra was convinced. Rasputin was sent by God. Suddenly, this dirty peasant had the ear of the most powerful rulers on earth. He started making political decisions, replacing government officials, and living a wild life of luxury and scandal. The Russian nobles were furious. They saw him as a parasite, destroying their country from the inside. But as Rasputin's power grew, so did the hatred against him, and a group of young aristocrats decided it was time to eliminate the monk. Little did they know they were about to walk into a literal nightmare. December 30th, 1916, a young prince named Felix Yusupov invited Rasputin to his palace for a midnight party. Rasputin, loving a good party, happily accepted. The prince led Rasputin down to a beautifully decorated basement. On the table were cakes and wine. But these weren't ordinary treats. They were laced with massive amounts of potassium, cyanide, enough poison to drop a dozen men instantly. The conspirators waited upstairs, listening nervously. Downstairs, Rasputin started eating the cakes. 1, 2, 3. He washed them down with the poisoned wine. Prince Felix watched in absolute horror, waiting for the monk to collapse. But Rasputin didn't drop. In fact, he looked completely fine. He actually asked for more wine, grabbed a guitar, and started singing and dancing. Terrified and desperate, Prince Felix ran upstairs, grabbed a revolver from his friends and went back down. He pointed the gun at Rasputin's chest and fired. Bang! Rasputin collapsed to the floor. It was over. The monster was dead. The conspirators celebrated upstairs. After a while, Prince Felix went back down to check on the body. He leaned over the lifeless monk. Suddenly, Rasputin's eyes snapped open. Rasputin roared, grabbed the prince by the throat, and began ripping the epaulets off his uniform. The prince broke free, terrified, as Rasputin literally crawled up the basement stairs and ran out into the snowy courtyard. The other conspirators chased him, firing 4 more shots. Rasputin fell into the snow. They bound his hands, wrapped him in a heavy carpet, and threw him into the freezing, icy Neva River. When his body was found days later, the legend exploded. Rasputin was immortal. He only died because he drowned in the water. But it's the ultimate horror story, right, son? Well, here is the twist that nobody tells you. Modern forensic science and autopsy reports have revealed a shocking truth. The legendary story of his murder was mostly a lie. There was no water found in Rasputin's lungs, meaning he was already dead before he hit the river. And the poison? Historians now believe the poison never worked because it was either fake, poorly prepared, or, get this, The conspirators were so terrified, they panicked and forgot to put it in the cakes at all. The whole immortal monster story was actually made up by Prince Felix and his friends in their memoirs. Why? To make themselves look like heroes who defeated an unstoppable demon, rather than a group of panicking, wealthy kids who completely botched a political assassination. Rasputin wasn't a demon. He was just a deeply manipulative man who used human psychology to control an empire, and whose death was turned into a myth to cover up a messy crime. History loves a good myth, but the real truth is usually far more fascinating. If you love uncovering the hidden, gritty truths behind the world's biggest historical legends, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and drop a comment below. Do you think Rasputin genuinely had healing powers, or was he just the world's greatest con man? Remember, the past is never truly dead. It's just waiting to be uncovered. Keep questioning the stories you've been told, and we will see you in the next chapter of global history. This is Historia Prime. Stay curious and stay sharp.